Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. Let's talk about RDA versus Islam Makhachev. Big fight card this weekend, UFC 272, featuring Colby Covington versus Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. We already did a podcast talking about the main event coming this weekend, but in some interesting news, RDA might be fighting Islam Makhachev. Now, RDA was supposed to fight this weekend against Fiziev. Fiziev got COVID and is unfortunately out of that co-main event spot. Islam Makhachev on February 28th, Monday, called out RDA. This is someone that he was supposed to fight back in the day. This was supposed to be one of the massive fights to show us where Islam Makhachev is in his career. It was going to be around the time that he fought Dan Hooker, and he was supposed to play that role. And this fight, like I said, has been in the works for such a long time, so anticipated with all of the UFC mixed martial arts fans. A lot of people have been wanting to watch the former lightweight champion of the world take on the contender in Islam Makhachev, one of the biggest contenders, Khabib Nurmagomedov's protege, and has been demolishing everybody in the division with 22 wins and 1 loss. But this fight, if it potentially happens on 5 days' notice for Islam Makhachev, would be so special and would shoot him right to the top and would take away any thoughts of him having to fight Beneil Dariush or anybody else before taking on the champion Charles Oliveira. For RDA, this has been someone that he's been circling for a very long time, and it could be a payday that he could miss out this weekend. He's already ready. He was already taking on a massive challenge in Fiziev, and now to take on Islam Makhachev on 5 days' notice for him as well, even though he was going to fight this weekend, would be super special. Now, let's get into some of the more intricacies of this fight and why it could or could not happen. Now, Islam Makhachev just fought last weekend, and he took on Bobby Green. In that fight, he steamrolled Bobby Green in the first round and defeated him at 3 minutes and 23 seconds in Las Vegas, Nevada, at a catchweight bout at 160. Bobby Green was a late replacement for Islam Makhachev, and now he could be the late replacement for RDA. And what could hold us back from seeing this fight this weekend, which would bump up the card even more, is the fact that he just fought. Now, will the commission allow him to do this? Will they be able to get a special notice for Islam Makhachev to fight RDA? Who knows? This is all stuff up in the air. Dana White has said that he wants RDA to remain on the card. This was part of the breaking news that he talked about with the UFC, and TMZ, talking to the TMZ hosts, saying that he wants RDA to remain on the card. Right after that, Islam Makhachev tweeted out, like I said today, February 28th, that he would like to fight RDA in the co-main event of UFC 272. Just to go through the list of people that Islam Makhachev has fought before. And again, I talked about this in the pre-fight Bobby Green versus Islam Makhachev podcast that I did, is that now we're starting to get those big names on Islam Makhachev's record. He has some massive names like Drew Dober, who I have high regard for. If you listen to this podcast, I always talk a lot of great things about Drew Dober. So powerful for that 155-pound division. Taking on Thiago Moises, taking on Dan Hooker, who is on its own really hard and tough test for anybody in that division. Someone super tall with the striking ability that Dan Hooker has and he trains with one of the best strikers in the UFC in Israel Adesanya. And for Islam Makhachev to take him on in Abu Dhabi and take him out in the first round at 2 minutes and 25 seconds, again, steamrolling people. And this happened at UFC 267. And then now taking on Bobby Green, took him out, like I said, first round, 3 minutes and 23 seconds. A lot of people really love the story of Bobby Green. What if he could win? That would have been an amazing story, but it just so happened that the massive favorite in Islam Makhachev took out Bobby Green. And a lot of people thought that this would happen. Now, Bobby Green was a great test, a great veteran. I think it just showed, I compared it in the first podcast, in the pre-fight podcast, to the Bobby Green fight and Islam Makhachev fight. I compared it to when Al Iaquinta took on Khabib Nurmagomedov. And when Khabib took him on, it wasn't the biggest test. It was for the belt at the time, and there was a lot of things that went into that fight where his opponent backed out. I believe Max Holloway was supposed to fight him at one point. He wasn't able to make the 155-pound limit. Then Al Iaquinta went from being lower on the card to fighting for the championship and gave a great test to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, what happened in that fight was a lot of people thought that, it wasn't going to be a big time fight. Khabib would just roll over Al Iaquinta, but that's not what happened. But Bobby Green made a somewhat okay account of himself, but still he got steamrolled in that fight. It was at catch weight at 160, and Bobby Green just didn't look like himself. The A side, the stuff that you would tick on his side, if you're comparing the two, and what we were talking about before the fight was that he could use his striking. Now we've seen him deal with the striker Islam Makhachev and Dan Hooker and Bobby Green, and the wrestling that he shows is just so special. Now, if he's taking on someone like RDA, we're so high on this fight because we know that RDA is such a overall great mixed martial artist, black belt on the ground, and amazing striker, champion at one point, taking on the who's who in the division. His last win was against Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, where he defeated him by split decision. But taking on someone like Paul Felder is always tough. Now, why people might be a little bit apprehensive to give RDA all of his flowers is because the way that his career is going now, later in his career. I believe he's 37 now, and he's losing a couple of fights here and there, but RDA is always so tough for anybody. Someone that was going to fight Conor McGregor when Conor McGregor was on his massive streak in 2016, 2017, 2018, and wasn't able to because he broke his leg. But, losing to Michael Chiesa, that's no slouch, again, at 170, I believe. And then taking on Leon Edwards, who we all know is someone that should be fighting for a belt, should be taking on the champion, Kamaru Usman. Hopefully he does. But again, someone that is so tough in any division in the UFC. Kamaru Usman, he lost to Colby Covington. Now, the names that I'm naming off, the names that I'm talking about here, they're all people that are the cream of the crop of the division. But the wins that he has as well are still against the top level fighters in the divisions that he switches back and forth from. Paul Felder, like I said, Kevin Lee, Robbie Lawler, Neil Magny, and taking on fighters like Tony Ferguson and Eddie Alvarez and defeating Donald Cerrone in 2015. Donald Cerrone at the time was not the Donald Cerrone that we see now, taking on Anthony Showtime Pettis and taking him out in unanimous decision at UFC 185. Now, this fight is going to be so special because you're going to have someone that can strike and might have the striking advantage against Islam Makhachev. But then what happens when it goes to the ground? Will he be able to defend the takedowns? I don't think so. But I'm more curious where Tony Ferguson, the interest with him fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov was him using his 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu against Khabib Nurmagomedov. What would happen if Khabib took him down and he was able to use his jiu-jitsu, and he's so offensive off his back, so that's why so many people were so high on that fight. Would RDA be able to use his jiu-jitsu on the ground with Makhachev? Who knows? Would he be able to outstrike Makhachev? That would be even more crazy. And on top of that, you layer on that this could be a 5 days notice for both of these fighters in such a massive card. Like I said in the pre-fight podcast that I did for Jorge Masvidal and Kobe Covington, I talked about how this could be one of the biggest cards of the year. We know that it's the biggest rivalry in the UFC currently. It could be the biggest rivalry of all time. It's up there with John Jones and DC. It's up there with Conor and Nate. It's up there with a bunch of these fighters. Dana White mentioning Rashad versus John Jones. And I think this one might be higher than all of them. Former training partners who hate each other due to some reason in the background. But you sprinkle on putting Islam Makhachev versus RDA would make this fight card so much more special, would make this fight card that next level. And if RDA gets a win, it would make a lot of people happy. If Islam Makhachev gets a win, it would speed up his run to the championship. I'm really excited to see what happens. Who knows if this fight actually happens? Who knows if the doctor clears him? What drama, what news that is breaking out just a week before UFC 272 comes. I'm so excited for this card. It's going to be a great one. Thank you for listening to me talk. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. Please listen to the podcast on the different podcast networks. Leave a comment, leave a review, leave a comment on YouTube. Please subscribe if you want to. And again, thank you for listening. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.